Been a devastating few weeks for the left, to say the least. A devastating few weeks. The socialists and the neolibs are in full-blown panic right now. And we have several weeks to go before the red avalanche buries those misguided socialist policies in America, hopefully forever. The losses for the left at the Supreme Court have been nothing short of monumental this term. The conservative court, the first conservative court since the Great Depression, with one-third of its members chosen by a one-term bombastic president they have tried to destroy and discredit for years, but who is living rent-free in their heads even today, 18 months after leaving office. Donald Trump is the most consequential president since at least FDR, and is the grand champion for being the most consequential president ever in American history when it comes to the Supreme Court. It's hard to argue. Yesterday came the crowning achievement of this term, when the court sent the EPA and the idea of the Chevron doctrine packing, even though they didn't use it by name, and the overreaching, ominous presence of regulatory agencies when it ruled by a clear majority, 6-3, that the EPA had no right to dictate to West Virginia, or any other state for that matter, how to manage emissions from power plants and so much more. This ruling will echo through the alphabet agencies, and it already has, at least for a generation, maybe longer, and stops dead in its tracks the reckless, misguided, left-wing powered Green New Deal and Joe Biden's war on American energy. Oh, the tree huggers, the bunny lovers, they are in full panic today. More cases will now come. But the court has set the stage to jettison the Chevron doctrine forever sometime in the near future, maybe this next term. This was just one pivotal and consequential case, very consequential case. Two more strengthened religious liberty. Another solidified our individual rights to keep and bear arms outside of the home, even in New York, by knocking down that 100-year-old antiquated unconstitutional law there that demanded people had to show good reason to carry concealed. It has been a truly remarkable session for the court. The next term is shaping up much the same. The only disappointment, of course, came when the court, with Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Kavanaugh joining the three liberals in shutting down the Remain in Mexico policy for asylum seekers. I don't agree with that decision, but I did not choose to riot in the streets overnight. I didn't burn any public buildings. I didn't even shoot a police officer, not one. I don't plan to travel to Washington, D.C. to try to kill any of the Supreme Court justices either. Instead, I plan to work harder, to find ways to close the border that will stand up to judicial scrutiny, that will be meaningful, all short of rioting. Weird. Now that I've covered all of that, let's take a deeper dive into several things, including the fallout from some of those cases and reflecting on how well the left is taking it all. How about we start with Joe Biden in Europe? It's long, I realize, but here he is talking to members of the media. I think this was in Spain, actually, when they stopped in Madrid. It is long, but you can hear the old meandering fool go on for a bit and give you a pretty good glimpse of what's going on up here. Not much. Sorry, here it is.
The first NATO Summit last year, and you've come to this summit here and the one in Germany after the U.S. Supreme Court overturned constitutional protections for abortion, after the shootings in Buffalo and Texas, at a time of record inflation, and as new polling this week shows that 85% of the U.S. public thinks the country is going in the wrong direction. How do you explain this to those people who feel the country is going in the wrong direction, including some of the leaders you've been meeting with this week, who think that when you put all of this together, it amounts to an America that is going backward?
They do not think that. You haven't found one person, one world leader to say America is going backwards. America is better positioned to lead the world than we ever have been. We have the strongest economy in the world. Our inflation rates are lower than other nations in the world. The one thing that has been destabilizing is the outrageous behavior of the Supreme Court of the United States on overruling not only Roe v. Wade, but essentially challenging the right to privacy. We've been a leader in the world in terms of personal rights and privacy rights, and it is a mistake, in my view, for the Supreme Court to do what it did. But I have not seen anyone come up to me do anything other than, nor have you heard them say anything other than, thank you for America's leadership. You've changed the dynamic of NATO and the G7. So I can understand why the American people are frustrated. because of what the Supreme Court did. I can understand why the American people are frustrated because of inflation. But inflation is higher in almost every other country. Prices at the pump are higher in almost every other country. We're better positioned to deal with this than anyone, but we have a way to go. And the Supreme Court, we have to change that decision by codifying Roe v. Wade.
There were some comments by some of your...
You see, here's the thing. Every president gets decisions from the Supreme Court they dislike, strongly dislike. The difference is Joe Biden is so small and so petty, and he attacks the Supreme Court. He doesn't say, well, we can work harder and we can get these things done and we can accomplish. No. He's an imp, just a little petty imp who's, here's the thing about Joe Biden and all of these fools. None of them take responsibility for anything. It's Vladimir Putin, it's the Supreme Court, it's this. No, Joe. America's saying it quite clearly. You suck. I mean, let me just put it out there, Joe. You suck. You haven't done one good thing for this country. You've opened the border. You've wrecked the energy sector, forcing gas to $5 a gallon and diesel to $6, which means the cost of everything has gone through the roof. The housing boom has died. Interest rates are on their way up. You've pumped trillions of dollars into the economy that's fueled inflation. You're too dumb to understand it. You've never been particularly bright, but you're too dumb to understand it. And that is just, it's galling to have you sit there once again and blame others for your failures. It's probably what you taught your son Hunter, too. Of course, he was probably too high on crack to pay much attention and hooked up with hookers, but that's for a different day. The fact is, Joe Biden is the worst president in American history. I don't think you find a close rival at this point. I mean, they're at a photo op in Europe there with the G7, and the Chancellor of Germany and the President of France. Joe, you turn around. The camera's over here. You have to smile. That's how bad it is. He doesn't even know where to look for the camera, and he gets done with the meeting. He looks around. Where do I go? Really? Who do I call? And again at the press conference, who do I call on? Who do I call on? He's a joke. It's an embarrassment to all of us. We can do better, America. Thank God, and we will. Soon, I hope. November 8th, write it down, circle it. Because that clown has got to be taken completely out of power. All right, quick break here on the Steve Gruber Show. More after the break.